Welcome in. It is yet another NFL preview for the 2025 season here on Sports by the Book. We've made it. The defending Super Bowl champions. I'm Jeff Parles. She's Alex White. It's not Jalen Hurts, but it is Alex White. And we have made it to the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off their second Super Bowl championship. And Alex, this roster, maybe not quite as good as it was a year ago when they won the Super Bowl, but it is still at the top of this league roster-wise.
It definitely is. Power rating-wise, they are right up there. Number one for me going into this season. A couple changes, a couple holes to fill on defense, but they just do such a good job drafting and filling in those spots. So, I had to show some respect to Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP last year, even though he didn't have to do a whole lot throughout the regular season. Of course, they bring in Saquon Barkley, and they just dominated. And you always say it, but really, hiding in plain sight the entire season, and it was a dominating performance in the Super Bowl. Tough schedule, though, Jeff. With the matchup, the crossover that they have, the NFC North, the AFC West, so might not be as easy for the Eagles, but they are still at the top of the league.
You bring up the NFC East here, Alex. Again, they are number one in the division, win total-wise, betting favorite. Washington, of course, an NFC finalist along with the Eagles. Of course, Philadelphia destroyed them in the NFC title game, put 50-plus on them en route to getting to the Super Bowl. But the Eagles 2 wins clear on the season win total market over Washington, 11.5 for Philadelphia. They are almost $4 to make the playoffs at minus 380, which I would argue they probably should be north of $4, but regardless. This price surprised me to win the division. Minus 135 actually feels pretty darn good if you want to bet the Eagles. Yes, I understand it's a division where no one wins the division back-to-back years. I get it. We're going on 20-plus years at this point. But they're just so much better than everyone else, Alex. Plus 340 to win the NFC, plus 350 to win it all for the second consecutive year.
I'm with you. I love that minus 135 to win this division. I do think that Washington is right there, but we are going to see a little bit of regression, right? And they haven't quite figured out all of their pieces that they need to. One of the weaker defenses, and the Eagles were the best defense in the league. And as I mentioned, just a couple little changes on that side of the ball. So I do think that they will be the best in the division. I do think it's the Eagles, the Commanders, a gap, and then the Cowboys and the Giants. I think the Cowboys still have a long way to go before competing in this division again, which they just were back and forth with the Eagles the last few years.
I'll just say this. When you're looking at the division as a whole, the Giants, we talked about it on the preview, roster is much better than a 5.5 win total, but it's just they have one of the most insane schedules I think you and I have ever seen, at least going into the year on paper. Dallas, the least expectations they've had in over a decade at this rate, but it all goes through Philadelphia when it's all said and done. Let's look at the Eagles' schedule, which, of course, the Eagles will open with the Cowboys, but you can also open your NFL season here with us at the South Point. The $25,000 jackpot parlay card, only $5 a card. The Eagles and Cowboys not included because these start on Sunday. So you just have to make sure that your cards are in by 10 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday, September 7th. I would highly suggest you get those cards in by September 5th, though. Just if you're at the South Point up at the Rampart, get them in early, get them in often here for the $5 card, $25,000 guaranteed. As many winners as you can get. 14 sides, one total for Sunday Night Football with the Bills and the Ravens in week 1. One of the best contests, period, in the whole, forget just the whole city. How about the whole country, Alex?
Kick off your football season the right way, right? You just you're going to be sitting there watching games the entire day on Sunday, so you might as well be checking off if you got some winners as you go down that list.
Looking at the schedule, we just mentioned it. Pushing a touchdown at home week 1, Thursday night opens the season at the Link against the Cowboys. And then the next 4 weeks are quite difficult. And you could even push that out to week 7, Alex, where Super Bowl rematch in Kansas City, an NFC playoff rematch in week 3 against the Rams. The Rams were the closest to beating the Eagles in the postseason a year ago. A road trip to Tampa where the Eagles have had their problems over the years in Tampa Bay. Denver, no pushover week 5, and then a short week against the Giants before getting the Vikings in Minnesota. That's a pretty darn hard stretch from week 2 through week 7. We expect the Eagles to be up to the task, but even so, even for the best roster in the NFL, that's a brutal stretch.
After the bye week, I really have them just to pick them or a small dog in one game. But you're right. I mean, that first few weeks right there, 2 through 4, I have them a small dog in 2 out of the 3. So yeah, that first stretch is going to be pretty tough here for the Eagles.
And it's funny because I would argue that even the back end of the schedule, they don't even have the Commander game until week 16, which again, NFL, what the hell are we doing? Why? Why would you have the 2 best teams in the NFC East and the teams who play in the NFC title game not play until week 16? What are we doing here? I mean, it is not an easy schedule. And this is the theme with the NFC East this year, just because of the way that it's crossed up, where you get the NFC North, which we both have as the best division in the NFL, and you get the AFC West, which is the best division in the AFC. So you got brutal, and you have the first place schedule on top of it, where you go to Tampa, you get the Rams at home, you get the extra game, you get the extra cross game in the AFC with Buffalo week 17.
Yep.
This is a really difficult schedule. Now, it's part of the reason that I like Philly to win the division, but I would lean to the under win total. Philly could be equally as good as they were a year ago when they won 14 games and go 11-6 just because of how tough the schedule is, Alex.
No, they really could. It's kind of a wide range there, right? I mean, the bookmakers are so good at this, but I really think it's right there, 11 to 13 wins for them this year. I just think that they are a step above, and now they've really created a winning culture there. And we're going to get into the roster, but I mean, the offense brings back 10 of 11 starters. Just with that alone, they're going to be in every single one of these games, especially, as I mentioned earlier, having one of the best defenses. So it looks very tough, but I do like the fact that some of their harder opponents, they do get to host. They get the Rams at home and don't have to go all the way to LA against them. Going to Tampa, not the best, but host Denver, and host the Lions. There's some in there that are very beneficial, that they do get to be at home and get that home field advantage.
Well, and again, the Detroit one, again, the Lions, we talk about it on the Lion preview, a lot less indoor games for Detroit. Of course, obviously half their schedule is going to always be indoors, but they have to go on the road outdoors in a lot of tough places, including that. Even though it's a weird sandwich spot, in week 11, that will probably be a bet on Philadelphia. Again, we got a long way to go to get to week 11. Offensively speaking, of course, Jalen Hurts coming off of just what was a magnificent performance. Well, in all honesty, everyone was magnificent in the Super Bowl if you were wearing Eagles colors that day. Hurts comes in as the 6th option on the MVP market, which it's the big 4 in the AFC, and then Jaden Daniels, and then Hurts and Herbert coming at 20-1. I'll just stand pat on what I've been saying. It's going to be one of the big 4 in the AFC, more likely than not. So there's that. Saquon Barkley, coming off of the historic season a year ago, is your betting favorite to win Offensive Player of the Year for the 2nd straight year. I would personally not bet that. I think the Eagles are going to be a little more cautious with Barkley's usage this year, just because you played the extra games last year, going to a Super Bowl, and also, as we know, the running back age clock runs a lot faster than any other position in, honestly, professional sports at this point. But
with the MVP, and you just brought it up with Saquon, I do think that they may come back a little bit, but still they have so many weapons, and they are going to lean on him. I mean, that's why they brought him in here. And last year, they were 29th in passing offense and league low in pass attempts per game. So if you aren't having your quarterback throw a whole lot, then it's going to be very tough for him to win an award like that.
Well, again, that's when the Eagles are at their best. Of course, monster offensive line. There is the Landon Dickerson knee injury that we have to monitor. It looks like he's going to be okay and miss a lot less time than it looked like he could have when the injury first occurred. Possibility he's there in week 1. I would be surprised if the Eagles pushed it. Probably we'll see him at the earliest week 2 against Kansas City with extra rest coming off of that game as well. Of course, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, all back again. The offense is pretty well intact, all things considered. Of course, Kellen Moore now the head coach in New Orleans. That's really the only change. Almost all the coordinators back in Philly, where, of course, changed both coordinators last year to the good. The year before, Steichen and Gannon leave for head coaching jobs. And of course, we know the back end disaster that was the 2023 season for the Eagles.
So hopefully the offense just, is a well-oiled machine at this point. Don't have to make a lot of changes with that transition again to a new OC, but he was already in the building, right? And just is promoted. So I think that they'll be okay there. I just think he has awesome weapons. AJ Brown and Devonta Smith are one of the best duos in the league. And then you got A.J. Dillon now, who will replace Kenny Gainwell as the backup for Saquon Barkley. Will Shipley had a decent rookie season. Didn't get to see a whole lot of him, but we saw a couple.
We saw him in the playoffs. He had some Shipley anytime touchdowns. You paid out pretty nicely in those spots.
And really just the O-line, right? You just brought up one little injury we do have to watch, but I really think that they will be one of the top once again.
Yeah, there's no reason to think that Philly's O-line won't be top 3, top 2 even again. Jurgenstein, Johnson, Mayata, and Dickerson. That's as good of a combination as there is in the NFL. It's interesting, though, because you look at the board, and this is just a testament to how good the Eagles' offensive line is, other than Lane Johnson, who's currently number 2, which, again, it's super interesting that the 2 betting favorites are right tackles. Mailata comes in at 4th and 9-1. Here's the thing. I wouldn't bet any of the Eagles in this market because I think the unit is just so darn good that I don't know if and this could also kind of work for Sewell in Detroit as well. If you think that line is going to be as good as it was last year, the lines that have the stronger units, I think the high end players on these lines are going to get hurt in the voting. Right. Now, then you look at Trent Williams in San Francisco, where the rest of that offensive line is pretty messy. Trent Williams comes back and is healthy, and all of a sudden the Niners' offense is humming again. Trent Williams may get a little more credit than he even deserves, which he deserves a ton of credit to begin with. I'm probably not betting anything in this market because I don't know what the voters are going to do. But boy, it'd be interesting to see how it all plays out for the first-time Protector of the Year award that's available here in the NFL, Alex.
I think that's a great point, though. I do think if you have a solid unit, then it could hurt you in the voting market. So, yeah, Trent Williams there, that's pretty tempting. Defensively
speaking, this is, again, another high-end, top-flight defense. Fangio is, if he's not the best defensive coordinator in the NFL, he's darn close. A little bit different in the secondary. That's really the biggest difference. Big game Slay is now in Pittsburgh, even though, again, I would argue he was nowhere near the same by the end. But look, you 2 pretty darn good guys, young guys back there, and Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, who, again, even with Ringo and Adoree Jackson on the other side, you got still really good depth in the secondary. Blankenship and Sidney Brown still good at the safety position. Their pass rush is a little different looking as well. But again, you have Carter up front. You have Jordan Davis up front. You have Nolan Smith, who's going to really be the number 1 pass rusher. Ojulari comes over from the Giants, who I always liked all the way back to his time in Georgia. And then Zach Bond is a beast at middle linebacker. And they had Jahad Campbell as well with their first-round pick because Nakobe Dean we probably won't see for a while with that patella injury.
Pretty amazing. Zach Bond developed into one of the best linebackers, right? And he was just a backup in New Orleans and really is, I think, leading this defense now, at least the skeleton. So I think their defense is going to be just fine with some of those changes that you mentioned with, no more CJ Gardner-Johnson and no more Darius Slay. But I think they'll be just fine. And they have plenty of options and good depth of how they can kind of move around and see. It is going to be interesting which 2 spots are taken here by Brown and Ringo and these guys to pair up with Blankenship. So, I mean, again, you said it, Vic Fangio, one of the best.
Alex, this is pound for pound. They are, again, the best roster in the NFL, pound for pound. Now, there are a lot of other factors that have to go into this. Now, in the past, obviously, we look at the Super Bowl loser as the one who's going to regress and possibly fall out. We do not think that to be the case at all with Kansas City because of just what the Chiefs are. Yeah. I just wonder with Philadelphia because we saw when things go awry in the Sirianni era at the end of the 23 season. I mean, that thing completely blew up on them. And they were in the Super Bowl the year before. And look, they were the best record in the NFL heading into December and then won only one more game the rest of the season in 23. Again, coming off the Super Bowl win, it's a little bit different. But this is and this is the case in the entire NFC East. The schedule is ridiculously difficult. And the Eagles roster, pound for pound, like I said, best roster in the NFL. But I could see them going 12-5, 11-6, because this is an extraordinarily difficult schedule. And you also, again, a team coming off a Super Bowl. I know everyone say, oh, every year is different. Everyone's going to be motivated every single year. But you have to always have that at least in your back pocket of like, hey, maybe it's a little bit of a slow start for Philadelphia against the first 4 weeks against 3 high-end playoff teams from a year ago. But in the end, Philadelphia, we finally have a division repeat in the NFC East, that Philadelphia wins the East. They're not going to have as good of a record as they did a year ago, but 1 seed, 2 seed is definitely in play, because I don't think the top of the NFC, I don't think there's going to be a 14-3 this year. I think it's going to be 13-4, 12-5 might be good enough to get the 1 seed this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely. I do have them winning this division again. And I just think it'd be too hard to fall back that much. I mean, even looking at their stats, and they finished second defensively in points allowed, number 1 against the pass, number 1 total defense. And their offense was 8th total offense. I mentioned the passing earlier, but 2nd in rushing and 7th in points. So, I mean, I think they're going to be top 10 in both of those again, if not top 5. So tough schedule, but they still, I mean, they have everything there to, lock up some wins and win this division, definitely.
Absolutely. Again, Philly, the betting favorite to win the NFC, as they should be, plus 350, or I should say plus 340. There is plus 350 out in the market as well. The Eagles are plus 650 to win the Super Bowl. That's 13-2 if you like fractions at home. But they are the rightful NFC favorites, or a rightful top 5 favorite to lift the Lombardi yet again. This is a loaded roster. It's just a matter of getting through the regular season brutal schedule. And also, one last note I do need to bring up. They had incredible injury luck a year ago.
Yeah.
And in the NFL, it's very hard to string together back-to-back great injury luck seasons. So again, they have the depth to withstand it, but they did have outstanding injury luck a year ago.
Well, and that sometimes shows up more in the playoffs, right? I mean, look at the Lions. They kind of covered it up throughout the regular season, and then we definitely saw that against the Commanders. So it might make me a little more hesitant to bet them in the future market as to winning the NFC or winning the Super Bowl again.
Philadelphia looking for the 2nd consecutive Super Bowl and their 3rd championship in a decade, which again, it's pretty funny. The Nick Foles Super Bowl, the Eagles had never won the Super Bowl before. And it's interesting because, like, especially since the beginning of the 2000s, they have been as consistent as anyone in the NFL of getting to the playoffs,
right,
winning divisions, and took them until Nick Foles, that glorious February day at US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. But again, 2nd title in New Orleans a year ago. Would not be shocked to see him in Santa Clara in February in Super Bowl 60. All right, there you go. That's the Eagles preview here on Sports by the Book. All the previews are available now. They're all available. Sports by the Book on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're hitting, you get notifications, or get notifications for when our show goes live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern. Also, our Football Frenzy on a Friday show comes back every Friday, 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. Myself, Alex White, and 2 Hall of Fame bookmakers, Chris Andrews and Vinny Maliulo, will join us for not only the bettor's perspective, the bookmaker perspective for the week ahead in the NFL and college football. So we're looking forward to it all, live as always from the South Point Hotel and Casino here in lovely Las Vegas, Nevada. She's Alex White. I'm Jeff Parles. This has been the Philadelphia Eagle preview for the 2025 NFL season right here on Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio.